Let us talk about the tetrapods now. First of them is class Amphibia. Now, when I talk about class Amphibia, break the word Amphibia. Bia would be for something living, bio as we have, and amphi would be dual. So, these organisms are going to survive both in land and water. So, they will be aquatic as well as terrestrial. Now, they have one specialized feature, you can say, that they can survive in terrestrial areas, but for fertilization purpose they have to come to water. That is why they are called amphibians, and we have come across this term amphibians in the plant kingdom as well, because those plants also needed water for fertilization, otherwise they could survive in the dry conditions as well. Now, this class Amphibia is aquatic as well as terrestrial. That is the first thing that we have. Second is that two pairs of legs are present. Now, over here we have a limbless amphibian, and please mind it that whenever we are studying this plant kingdom or animal kingdom or any of the kingdoms that we have studied, whichever organism stands out of the characteristic. What does that mean? That supposedly we are talking about the amphibians. I have mentioned this limbless amphibian, so we have to learn it basically. We have to remember it in specificity, because that is one characteristic feature that is different. That is one organism that is different, that is special case as we can say, and wherever we see such special cases, make sure you give extra attention to that in terms of learning. Now, we have two pairs of limbs that would be present in the case of amphibians. As you can see over here, we have the class Amphibia, and it is having all these frogs which are shown over here. Basically, we are going to deal with frogs and salamanders. Now, when we talk about class Amphibia, do keep in mind that most of the greatly poisonous species are present in this class. Now, what I am talking about is not snakes. Why not snakes? Because I am referring to these very beautifully colored frogs that are highly poisonous. They are responsible for secreting special toxins from their skin, which can kill many people in one go. As in the case of poisonous snakes, so is in the case of these frogs as well. The skin is having lots and lots of poison secreting glands, and those poisons can kill very easily. So, we deal with frogs and newts and salamanders over here. One is limbless amphibian, they have two pairs of legs. Now, the body is divisible into two parts. One is head and other one is trunk. Now, except for head part, rest entire body would be trunk. Now, as you can see over here in this picture only, you can make it out that the skin is moist. So, they have moist skin and there are no scales. Now, why do I mention scales? Because in the beginning when we started these chordates, we have been mentioning scales a lot, because we saw scales in the case of Pisces. We are not going to find scales in amphibians. Next case, that is of reptiles, we are going to find scales over there. In the birds also we have scales. So, basically we have to take care of scales where they are present and where they are not. So, theirs is a moist skin without scales. Scales would not be present. Now, talking about their sense organs, their entire body is having many organ systems. If we talk about their sense organs, we saw that in the case of Pisces, there were no eyelids which were present. In the case of these amphibians, there would be eyelids present, there would be a nictitating membrane that would be present, and there is a thing known as tympanum. Now, this tympanum is a membrane that serves the purpose of ear. Hearing purpose would be solved by tympanum, that would be a membrane that is present. Moving further, let us talk about another thing, that the heart would be three-chambered. The heart is three-chambered with one ventricle and two auricles. Let me mention it. Two auricles and one ventricle, which means there is sort of separation, but yet the deoxygenated blood and oxygenated blood are going to get mixed in the same ventricle. Then we have these organisms are cold blooded. We haven't seen any of the warm blooded organism till now. What is cold blooded organism? That they cannot regulate their internal temperature. They are going to depend on the external temperature for whatever heat is required inside their body. So, they are cold blooded, and the other term for this is poikilotherms. We know this term from the fishes that we study. They were poikilothermal. So these cold-blooded organisms are poikilotherms. That is why you don't find amphibians in the cold regions. You're not going to find any frog in the areas where there would be sub-zero temperatures. The sexes are separate. That means a male frog would be different and a female frog would be different, completely different they would look. There would be sexual dimorphism that would be present. The fertilization happens to be external, that is the gametes from both male and female bodies would be released out in the habitat and the fertilization would take place over there, resulting into the formation of amphibian eggs. So they are oviparous as well. Now we have one point, that is cloaca, that is present in these organisms. What is cloaca? For that we have to see the body plan basically. Now let's see the body plan. What you see over here is, this part is the head, this is the trunk. From the trunk, two pair of limbs are originating. It is the dorsal side, this is the ventral side. This line represents the mid central line, that is mid dorsal line that is present. You have a nictitating membrane that serves as eyelid. You have a tympanum that represents the ear. This is the interior end that serves the purpose of mouth. There are nares which are present. That means the terrestrial respiration is going to come into the scene. So let us talk about the respiration as well. What type of respiration is going to be present in frog? There are three types of respiration. Now, if you have ever seen a cartoon representation of frog or actual representation of frog, you would have observed that while they breathe, there is something which comes over here, some gas balloon like structures, as if somebody is putting the gas inside that balloon and that balloon gets inflated. That type of respiration is buccopharyngeal respiration, which is responsible for their croaking. You might have heard the frogs make a sound, sort of sound that is totally different. That sound is being made from that inflated balloon-like structure that is being created. That was funny though. You can associate with it that what sort of sound they can make. I am not a frog, so I cannot make that sound. This buccopharyngeal respiration is responsible for that croaking sound, which is done by the male frog to attract the female frogs. Now there are three basic respiration methods. One is that they are going to respire through moist skin. Second is they are going to respire through their lungs, and third is that they are going to respire through gills. Now this gills part would be done when they go into water. Lungs part and skin part would be outside or through water itself. This skin part, moist skin, would take up the oxygen. This lungs part would be for buccopharyngeal. So they have a mechanism for respiring in both the terrestrial as well as aquatic systems. Now we were at cloaca before we talked about respiration. What is cloaca? Cloaca is a common opening, as you can see over here. It is a common opening. Now when we talk about different systems, like we have reproductive system where there would be formation of male and female gametes in the respective organs, that is gonads we term them. We have reproductive system, we have digestive system that is responsible for digestion of food, and whatever is not digested, that is thrown out of the body and in the form of waste. And there is another system which must throw out the waste from the body, and that is excretory system. Before we go any further, you should know that excretion of frog, that is how the nitrogenous waste is thrown out from the frog's body, is by uric acid. So this is uricotelic organism. The excretory system, the digestive system and the reproductive system, all of them throw whatever is to be thrown out from the body in a common sac-like structure known as cloaca. That common sac-like structure which has an opening known as cloacal aperture. Like in the case of mammals, let's take the example. They would have an external opening for urinary system, that would be different. For reproductive system it would be different. For excretory digestive system it would be different. Take the case of human females. So that is not present in these organisms. Instead they have a cloaca and they have a cloacal aperture through which all the whatever is to be expelled out of the body from these systems comes out from the cloacal aperture. And one thing more before going to the examples, if you can remember, because we are dealing with craniata, that is all the organisms have cranium, we have to see if the organisms are having a monocondylic or a dicondylic skull. Till now we had monocondylic skull. If we have missed it in the case of Pisces, you have to remember that fishes, they have monocondylic skull. That is, there would be one occipital condyle that would be innervating with the part, that is vertebral column, that passes through the entire body, that skull and vertebral column I am talking about, that is monocondylic skull. And the other one is if there are two occipital condyles that are present. Please remember that the amphibians, not amphibians, sorry, the Pisces, that includes the fishes, both cartilaginous and the bony fishes, and the reptiles. These two have monocondylic skull. In the case of dicondylic skull, we have amphibians. So a frog is going to have a dicondylic skull. This question oftenly comes in many exams, it is being asked. So you have to remember that the amphibians, frog-like amphibians, they have a dicondylic skull. In the case of Pisces, the skull is monocondylic, and reptiles also have a monocondylic skull. You need not to get into the detail that how the skull is formed. All you have to remember is that there would be single occipital condyle for innervation with the vertebral column, and in dicondylic skull the case would be opposite, and there would be two occipital condyles. Now come to the examples. First one is bufo, that is the toad, that fatty sort of fat, inflated, or you say bloated frog. The other one is rana, that is the actual frog, that is not this bloated, this is actually a frog only, and this is simple frog that comes out whenever it rains and makes that sound. If you are having any water bog near your house, if it happens, or those who are in those areas where there are open spaces where water can get collected and the frogs would come out, you would see the frog that comes out and makes a lot of noise in the rainy season. Then we have hyla, that is the tree frog. In the previous picture you must have seen the first picture, this one. This is the tree frog that is being on the finger. Then we have salamandra, that is salamander, or the newts, very poisonous ones. Again the poison is secreted from the skin glands. And then we have ichthyophis. Now I had laid emphasis on your paying attention to the limbless amphibian. This ichthyophis is the limbless amphibian that we talk about, and it looks like as if it is a worm, but no, it is an amphibian. All the characteristics, rest of the characteristics whichever we have studied, that would be present in the case of ichthyophis. Only thing that would be missing is that it will not have the limbs. So this is all about the class Amphibia. For understanding the examples, it is better you have a look at the pictures so that you get a better idea and it is easy for you to learn the scientific names.